Hello, all you heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. Welcome to another episode of the Jenny Lee Gentry Book Club, Memorial Book Club. Oh, what's up, Jenny? I'm Alan the Unicorn, and with me today is my normal cohorts.
Terry?
Normal?
My abnormal
Abnormal cohorts?
Usual.
Usual, yeah. That's fair. Usual cohorts. Terry.
Galleon.
James.
So we will be talking about Pax Romana, which was James's pick, and we will destroy the book as much as we possibly can, or uplift it as much as possibly can, and so.
Who's Pax Romana by?
Who's it by? Who did the company?
I do not have the
James,
right
you're the
on
kid.
my-
Come on. Gosh.
Image was the one that produced
It's
it.
by
we
Jonathan Hickman, who's the one
Who's
currently
doing
rebooting X-Men. That's
Yep.
one of the reasons I picked it.
Mhm.
And created, written, and illustrated by Jonathan Hickman.
Well,
So.
that actually explains quite a bit. And then,
Why it was so light on the illustrating.
huh?
Why it was so light on the illustrating. Because he's a writer.
Yeah.
I said, well, how is he as an artist? He's a pretty good writer.
Yeah, it's pretty right. It's about sums it up. We'll get to there in a minute. Let's talk about what it was kind of about. So, it was kind of about basically the church finds a way to go back in time.
Well, the church is lamenting that the church is where it is today, and
Because they're having a successor. There's a little tiny boy who becomes like a successor for
But
one of
now-
the popes.
but
This is set in the future.
no.
The beginning of it was.
Yes.
Yes, the beginning. So,
Yeah.
but the
we're-
beginning of it, they're talking about the failure of the church, the rise of Islam, all the things we're seeing now.
Yeah.
The you know
Only in the future.
but yeah, even worse. But I mean, the church is falling apart today, and
Would that be a metaphor?
no, that would be an actual thing.
Be actually what's happening.
Yes.
So
You know, there's just scandal after scandal, and
But they
fewer
have-
and few people go
they
to
have
church.
they have the ability to go back in time. So they
Scientists
send
figured out how to do it.
they send back, but they keep it to themselves. So they send back all this stuff to be able to build the church back up. But when the people that they send back get back there, they decide that they're not going to do that. They're actually going to do anti-religion and establish, kind of like their own government and do what they think is right, which they
Try
end
to
up-
stop the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
And
So good idea, good premise, but then you got people humans
you got
basically,
people.
who have their
Yeah.
own agenda,
Right.
and yeah.
So that's kind of what it's about, what it's not. I mean, like that's kind of the overview of the book. That's not like that's what happened. And then let's talk about some of the writing and the dialogue and things like that.
So this was more of an illustrated novel than like a graphic novel or a trade.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical comic at all. It's broken up like in sort of different phases, sort of. You have like the current timeline, the past, and then
the revised
the
timeline.
revised timeline. But then there's also another section of its own is these tables, these talks that they kind of break
Yeah.
down.
Transcripts. These, like transcripts.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like it definitely has a lot of formats. Like there's a lot of the dialogue is formatted a little weird. It's like more of a box instead of like a word bubble as traditional. It's very like matter of fact, almost font. Like it's just kind of like typed, like robotic font. And even then, like they have occasionally they'll have those little bit of weird fonts where they have like the different word balloons and but then they also have the transcript portions and. There's a lot of like
meeting and stuff.
Conversations.
well, there's a lot of boxes that are like the hidden agenda, and there's a lot of
Right.
things like that.
Well, like little things that define stuff.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, they kind of like define
Or
what's
tell
going on.
who historical figures are,
Right.
and
I hated this. I hated this so bad.
What?
It was so difficult for me to get through this. I was just like trying to plug through quicker and quicker, and I was like, please, dear God, don't let it keep going. And
I found the
It
story
was
interesting,
so-
but it was the way it was formatted. Since I'm not used to it, I mean, I'm used to just reading a novel, but I don't always read. I don't read a lot of novels, but I do read novels. But it was even different than a picture novel as well. So it was hard to get through, especially since it was broken up into those stages that we meant. It was kind of
Well, it was almost
it took a lot longer to get through it.
what it reminded me of was reminded me if somebody made a script for a TV show
Sure.
and they had a TV show idea and they were going to pitch it and they gave you this screenplay or this play and they gave it to the person and the person took it and was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put some shitty illustrations behind this and let's make a book out of it. And that's how I kind of felt was like, it was like this, they had this idea. The idea was kind of interesting, and I feel like the premise was really interesting. I really liked the idea of what they did, and I even liked the idea of like how some of the characters went about. But between the dialogue and the art was really sketchy and hard to tell. I had a really difficult time getting through who's who, what's what. Even when they explain things, like when the transcripts were on there, you know, they had the key of like who was talking, and it's like I don't even know who half these people are anyway. It's like this person's this person. I was like, but I don't even know who that is. I had to keep like going back or trying to figure it out. So it was really difficult for me. I had a really hard
the
time.
illustrations. They were fine with me. I just didn't like the way that the book was segmented, you know. It just didn't flow well.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, I definitely did not flow well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
It was my pick, but I hadn't really. I picked one I'd heard about, and it was interesting premise, but I wanted it to be better than it ended up being.
Well,
but
it was actually
it's just not.
It was actually kind of predictable, really. I mean, the story was a predictable story. You knew that you're going to have these humans. You know that they're going to go back in time. You know that they're going to screw things up. You knew that I knew that they were eventually going to be divided, and it was a very predictable story. Although I enjoyed it for the most part, I knew what was going to be coming down the road.
yeah. I definitely liked the premise. I thought but it just had so many flaws in it, and execution wise, it was just really difficult. Because a lot of the stuff would even, once I get a flow of like, okay, word bubble, then they would do these transcripts, and it would totally take me out of that whole like flow, and it'd be like, okay, so now I got to try to figure this. I've changed my kind of thought patterns, and I'd finally start getting like, okay, we're reading like a script, and then it'd be like, you know, here's something else. And it's just like, it was everything that they did to try to execute their idea threw me out of their idea more and more every single time.
I think that, like you just mentioned, the transcripts, I think really stopped the storyline.
Yeah.
And you had to stop, and you had to read, okay, who's this? And you had to go back and look at the key, and who's
Right.
this? And then you'd start going back to the story and getting a good flow, and another transcript
Yeah.
would hit, and
Yeah.
you'd stop it again.
It was definitely a little bit difficult to read like that. What do you think now?
I loved it.
Of course you did.
But I mean,
Of
I
course
no,
you did.
I've read.
You don't even know if you finished it.
Well, yeah, it's true. I don't like Hickman too much. But on this one, the transcripts didn't take me out of it because the transcripts were kind of, I think, the segue to what was happening in the future. In a lot of it, I felt.
I thought
So,
it was-
I mean, to me, it didn't take
The
it out of it.
transcripts were pretty information dense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it was information you were looking for, then you were like, oh, okay, they're going to explain all this stuff.
Yeah.
If it was part where it wasn't information you're looking for, you're like, ugh. It's like the
Yeah.
songs in any of the Middle Earth books.
Yes.
Some of them explain stuff, and some you're just like, when does it quit being italicized?
Yeah.
And it's not
Let me get
oh,
through
let's
this
get back to
faster.
the story.
But I mean, yes, I knew the story. It's the premise, as we have said, was interesting. The idea, I knew going into it, people are gonna fuck it up.
I definitely think that it was
That's my
seeing
one F
how
for the-
seeing
for
how
the
they
show.
did it, how he did it in the X-Men, this relaunch of the X-Men. I really liked the way they did that, but it made more sense in that.
Right.
And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the characters were sussed out. The characters each had their moments. Like the transcript that was in those books, because he did something similar. Like he did like a transcript-y kind of thing, but it was like a lot of it was informational, like you said, like to explain a little bit more things. he didn't get to the point where like you needed to know who this person was, because like later on, I think it was book 3 or 4 where he's deciding on who's going to rule when he gets rid of
Right.
the
When
Caesar.
they get rid of and they
So he's like, well, it should be Caesar's son, and the other guy's like, no. But it took me forever to figure out who those people were talking about, like who was talking about who.
I think if
And I was like, I have no idea.
I
who
think
these
if
people
you're
are.
a history fan or a big
Well, these were
history
the
buff-
characters that he made up.
But no, but because I think if you like I said, if you're a history fan, you know who Constable or no, not Constable.
Constantine.
Charlemagne. Wasn't it Charlemagne?
No.
Was it Constantine?
The Caesar, the guy that which one? One of the historical
was a
figures.
famous
Right.
Constantine.
You would know.
Yeah.
You would know who the historical figures were. You would know about the history and stuff.
But a lot of those things weren't even like that. A lot of them were the transcripts were the people that were the characters he made, and so when he
Right.
did these transcripts and like left the little key, if you didn't know who those people were, I didn't know who he was talking about half the time, because if he would have taken those transcripts and actually illustrated those, I think the book would have flowed a lot better and made more sense,
I think
because I would have been able to connect which character was talking about who.
Because then you'd
Like-
have a bunch of talking heads, and this way I thought kind of broke it down.
But that would have been
But kind of
fine.
like McFarlane in Spawn. Every issue he has 2 or 3 pages of like the 3 TV anchor people talking. So if he would have done something like that, maybe it would have been better.
I just think he could have done something different. But let's just segue. I definitely think into the art. So I
thought
feel
the art
like with
fit
the
well.
art, he lost a lot of it because he didn't do enough of it to connect to the other stuff.
Well, and I noticed that some of the art, he reused some of the art,
Yes.
and like if he had a picture of one of the picture with the guy holding the gun, he kept using that over and over.
And the
It
Pope
was
ones,
like
I feel like were a
clip
little less.
art.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's very much what it was. It's like a clip art.
But he's got an interesting the style. I thought I thought it was pretty good. I mean,
I think it would be nice as a print.
I knew who
Or
the
something that
characters were when it
I
went
have
back.
such
Because
a
one guy
hard
had
time.
an eye patch.
I couldn't even tell
slipped
that.
back.
Was that one person? Was there a girl? Was there a female? in
Yes,
there?
it was.
Yeah.
I felt like she was, but I couldn't tell. Like I couldn't. Like
And see,
they
I
all
was
kind of
wrong.
looked similar.
Like I said, I thought the art. I thought him doing art was good.
Yeah,
Was
the
it
girl was the
great?
one that
No.
broke off. And formed
She
the
became
group.
she was her own nation or something like
Yeah.
that. Like she moved to Britain or something.
Mm-hmm.
I like the art. I liked the art. It didn't necessarily fit well in portions of the book, but also on top of that, I did like the coloration of it.
Yeah.
It was-
As an art style, I know I would agree with you, but as for what it was trying to do, I don't think it worked well at all. I think the style was off-putting and confusing, and
Well, I mean, could you see this as I think it's one of the questions about a TV show.
I could definitely see this as a TV show. I think, it's, like I said, I think it's got it's
Yeah.
like somebody took a TV show script and or a
I mean, you can
pilot,
kind of see something like HBO doing this, like a Spartacus kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah, for sure, and that have them going back and forth, and with with the like I liked. There was one part where they invaded the army, and there was like 150 of them, and they had 2 tanks and like
Right.
like 150 snipers, and they took out like thousands
well,
of
we
people.
did lose 3 people,
Yeah.
and the guy's like, "You took out an army of
flipping, yeah,
150,000
yeah.
with and lost 3 people."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a bad day for
Yeah,
us.
Yeah.
and it wasn't even
Exactly.
like what they did. Like they flipped a tank by accident or
Yeah.
something like that. It was
Mhm.
something else. See, but that would be really great. I think would work well in a different medium. But the art wise, it just so hard. I say that with saying this though. I also read it differently than I think you guys do. I think you guys read like a whole page. I read like clips of it, like the way that it flows through on my iPad.
Yeah, so I read by page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
See, I read like it goes to whatever word bubble's next.
Yeah, I couldn't
see,
read
that-
like that.
that messes it
So
up.
like
I
all
like
my
it better
books
because
awful.
I'm able to focus more on what they're saying. Because a lot of times when there's a lot of stuff going on,
Maybe it should
I'll-
be
Sometimes
that way.
you
I
lose the
remember if I read it
whole-
all.
The whole setting, though.
Well,
I think, that
it'll
way.
like if there's something like a splash page or something like that, it'll branch out after you've done reading everything. It'll branch out and show you the whole thing. But like for the most part, it reads differently when you're not focusing on certain things.
Mm.
Just try it. It's actually I like it a lot.
No.
But for this one, it didn't work well.
No.
It didn't work well at all. But I was not. Yeah, I was glad it's only 4 books. So, what did you think of the art, James? Did you say?
It was simplistic. like I say, it was like clip art. It was, I don't know, that's kind of meh.
Yeah. So, what was something you liked about the book? I liked the premise. I thought the premise was
I
really
liked the
good,
premise.
and I liked actually some of the stuff that they did. Like, I thought it was kind of interesting the way that they approached some of it. Like the plan to go back, like what they planned to go back, was really kind of interesting.
Well, and I like
I'm not surprised.
when I read books like this, the thought experiment of, you know, how you would plan for a multi-generational mission. You know,
Right.
you know that the people that go are not. You have to train your successors, and you
Yeah.
have to train your successors' successors.
And I really hope that they continue on. Otherwise, it's just They
Well,
are,
as I saw, because I read it, I just didn't remember the last few pages, because I read it late. But you know, they accomplished all this mission, all this stuff by what 1492,
yeah,
like that.
like
so,
super early.
Yeah, so before I think ahead of time what they thought. So.
But they alluded to the fact that it was going to go downhill anyways. Like it was going to go back to what it was.
Well, they
because of the
planned
way
for
that they-
three regimes. You know, you had a conquest, a stability, and a revolution, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so once one person died, there's okay. Well, we're going to have this stage, and so you know they kind of were trying to do it, and it kind of, in a way, faltered in a sense. So.
But like studying history, like when they would build cathedrals and stuff, the architect that planned it knew that this was going to take more than his lifetime. So you know, he knew he was not going to live to
Yeah.
see it built, and he knew that he had to train someone, you know, all of his knowledge.
Yeah.
He had to train his own successors, and we don't have any sense of that, and yet there's nothing that we can build that take more than
Yeah.
a human lifetime.
Not anymore.
Anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, and like
And,
I mean,
and I don't know if we could even think that way to plan building something like that now. That would be.
so that's why. This is exactly why I like that concept. I thought that concept was really strong and kind of interesting. But that's one of the things that I liked. Terry, did you like anything?
Yeah, I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed it for the most part. I just thought it didn't read well. I knew, like I said, I thought it was predictable. I knew when they were, once they got back there in time, they kind of fell into a normal human pattern and were just trying to live out regular lives. And that's when the one lady said that this isn't going to work and
Yeah.
split off and stole the nukes. And
As in insurance,
it was
yeah.
it was an okay. It was. I wouldn't go back and read it. But
I
I
think
read
it
it
would've-
once. It was good enough. It was good.
I think it would have benefited, and you're going to groan, I know, with having a fifth issue to kind of flesh some of the stuff out a little bit more. So that's why I say you're going to
I
groan.
think that was probably the. I mean, like honestly, I think they could have done it shorter, if anything, because I feel like
I thought it was the right amount. I think it ended well.
But there was a lot of middle that really was. I mean, like I don't feel like they needed because honestly, the detail they went in, I thought was kind of interesting. Not even interesting. I think it was just kind of a weird choice that that's the detail they chose to go into was about the Caesar and successor, and that was what they focused on a lot. You know, it's about how this was the most important thing, and I was like, I feel like there could have been other details in the whole entire scheme of things, a little bit more along the lines that of how are they setting this up to be furthered on. You know, like maybe like a training camp, or you know, like a secret government, or something that they could have done with more detail than just the Caesar. And then it seemed like a little weird because it was just like it jumped all the way into, oh, now they're best friends, and he doesn't want the other guy's kids to be because he's kind of friends with the
son,
and he thinks he should rule because he thinks he's a good kid. You know, he thinks he's a good
He's
guy.
a little weaker, but
he's he's like. But he's like blinded by the relationship more than anything, and it's like that just kind of happened all of a sudden. There wasn't like a lot of
Well, and he said to them also that even if I get off track, shoot me.
Yeah. Yes.
and yet nobody did.
No, everybody went their separate ways,
Yeah.
did their own thing. And so, I mean, I feel like they could have shortened it with the details that they went into.
Yeah, they
was
need
kind of
Bill and Ted to
unnecessary.
fix
But
them.
so let's see. We've talked about things that made it better. Did you have like a favorite character or moments?
I didn't have any favorite characters though. No.
They really didn't develop
Really
hardly
wasn't
any
a
of them.
character, yeah.
You know, it's like towards the end they started making a little bit more. They kind of became more of a less of an archetype and more of a person with the
Some of my favorite moments were just little things that they would say and that they didn't get into, but it made me think. Like the one that the communications guy says, you're responsible for keeping all of our communications and electronics running for 200 years until we get the Industrial Revolution
right.
rolling, and they just kind of glossed over that. But I was like,
Yeah.
man, that is just
That's some intense stuff. Like
Yeah.
you'd have to what he would have to do in order to keep that.
I thought the
Going.
genetic popes were interesting and bizarre.
But they really didn't have anything
They
to
didn't,
do.
but I thought it
Yeah.
was kind of an interesting idea that didn't get fleshed out.
Yeah.
yeah, it was just sort of a storytelling
Yeah.
excuse.
There's a scene I thought was kind of funny, like you mentioned earlier. You know that they're taking on 1,000 troops with 150 of them. Only lost 3, you know, or 3 or 5, something like that.
Well, and they,
Thought that
you
was
know,
kinda
they're
fun.
talking
Yeah.
about slavery and the.
Like, should we do it? But we
it's-
need it. And
It's,
like,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, it says we're gonna abolish it eventually, but
Right now we need
we're gonna
it,
have to.
in order to get the things done that we want to get done, we have to have it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of because they enslaved a lot of people. So what about let's see, we talked about like what it could translate to. I think it would translate better and actually be able to flesh out and tell better stories with a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a movie would quite do it. I think a movie would have to be
Maybe a
similar to what
miniseries.
like quick.
Like a
It'd be a miniseries.
like
yeah.
a 6-hour miniseries or something. You know, would probably work.
HBO show.
I think a lot of it, like some of it is almost too weird. Like I just mentioned, the genetic popes and stuff. That's almost, I'm not sure how that would translate.
See, and I think that would be really awesome. Like you would have that different, the different futures in the past and how things changed, and you could you could flesh out a lot of that stuff. Would be really interesting. The battle would be really cool with the
Well, and that's the
150
thing is
guys.
today we don't do. I mean, when we grew up, you had Herman Wouk's The Winds of War and all these week-long miniseries and stuff, and we don't do that anymore.
Shogun.
Yeah.
Shogun.
Now we have a show that gets canceled after half a season.
Yeah. Yeah, you get 6 episodes of Hookman. Done.
Yep.
So final ratings and final thoughts.
I thought it was kind of blue.
A magenta, off-white.
If you're
Out of 5
See
unicorn
that?
horns, Dal, how many
See that?
unicorns would you give it?
I'd say 3-5.
Go 3. I'm.
And again,
You
I
know,
don't
I
like
picked it. I hadn't read it. It was just something that had been recommended, and that's kind of the purpose of book
Right.
club.
I
Is
totally agree.
read things that you might not have read before.
Totally agree.
So
I mean, but for me, rating-wise, I'd probably give it a 1.5.
I give it about a 3 as well.
Wow.
It just wasn't my thing.
I know.
Wasn't
Just
my
like
thing.
last one, Copa was not my thing, or James's
Oh, I
thing.
signed you up for the new Cobra.
You're gonna be buying it then.
I'll buy it. Gosh, it's horrible. So whose next pick is it?
It's mine.
And what are we doing?
Sheesh. Here we go.
We're gonna go back and read a little underrated classic
Oh God.
with vampires in it. I know you guys that are like horror are gonna enjoy it. Blood Plus Water by Judd Winnick.
Blood plus water.
Uh-huh.
I'll try
Okay.
Okay.
It's a Vertigo book.
Is it
It's very
a miniseries? Is it a one shot?
What's up with you all in the Catholic Church?
It was a
lately?
mini series. I think I don't remember exactly how many
15.
issues it was, but it was at least 5. Might have
Okay.
been 6.
So you think we can complete it then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He picks a book that deals with the Catholic Church. You pick a book that deals with vampires in the Catholic Church. I'm just going to go with the book. When I pick mine.
All right. So we'll do that next time, and that'll be December's movie club or book club.
It'll be really
say movie
Christmas
club?
Christmassy, yeah.
You say movie club?
Yeah. I have a movie club once a month too.
There's
a lot
movie
of clubs.
running clubs, and
Yeah. A lot of
yoga
clubs.
and
Billy clubs.
Did you know you're too young to get into the club? You ever seen that one with the substitute teacher, Keenan Peele? Aaron and D
Yeah,
Nice.
the second.
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. Now you know you ain't old enough to get no club. No, we have clubs for special interests. What club you belong to? Future Leaders of America. Now how you gonna know you gonna be a leader in the future?
So this has been
Have you not seen that? Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's hysterical.
So this
After what
Alan's
happened,
going off, here
so
now.
Pax Romana is what we read, and
Yes.
we're going to read Blood Plus Water,
Yep.
or Blood and Water, however you want to say it.
Blood and water.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you feel
I
about
wouldn't.
finding out by Jen Winnick? Alright. So until next book club, we hope your pull list is full. And if you can, like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so that you can be notified when we do post videos. I try to do them weekly. They don't always happen, but I try to do them weekly as much as possible. And then our book club is once a month. So, and if you ever want to join and you're in the Tulsa area, please feel free to leave us a comment. We will find you, and you're more than welcome to come in and film with us.
And you can join a club.
You can join the club. You can be in one of our clubs. We have plenty of clubs. Well, I have plenty of clubs to go around for the rest of us. So, but until then, we hope your pull list is full.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.